Welcome to Build Different by Design. My name is Emanuella, and today we are meeting with a luxury home builder by the name of Patrick Henderson. He is the founder and operator of PLH Homes, and as you can see, we are on site, so this is going to be a treat. All right, welcome to Build Different by Design. I'm Emanuella, and today we have Patrick Henderson of PLH Homes. Welcome, Pat.
All right, thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here, and we kind of taking it back to the lawn chair days.
Lawn chair learning circle.
Lawn chair learning circle. So for the audience or the people who don't know, take us back to the beginnings of Patrick Henderson.
Okay, so I'm an IT guy by trade, got involved in real estate early on. Back in '04, we were doing a lot of your fix and flips. When the market crashed in 2008, I said, you know what, I had to go back to my bread and butter. But in 2013, I decided to reinvent myself in terms of the way that I do construction. Before it was, your fix and flips, paid carpet, we may do a room addition, et cetera. But now we're doing, full on new construction and on the modern side of things. So we got into the luxury space, doing a lot of your modern new constructions and haven't turned back. I love it.
That's awesome. And you've just been super inspiring to watch and also a great mentor at that. So I thank you for that. So first question I got for you.
Okay.
What's one decision made early in the build process that most homeowners never see, but has the biggest impact on long-term quality of their home?
Well, I mean, when you start looking at it, you got to look at, if we're here on a project site here today, and you start understanding floor plans, you start talking about layouts, something as simple as water lines and hot water. When you got your hot water heater on the opposite side of the house and you're still trying to get water to the back, understanding, making sure that you have your recirculation pumps, if you're doing a hot water tank, or if you're doing a tankless system, making sure you have something equipped to handle the size of the home that you're doing, right? It's very, very simple, but a lot of people omit that throughout the process.
Yeah, and that was actually one thing I just recently learned on one of our bigger homes, because they were like, oh yeah, you need two. I said, two of what? They were like, two water heaters, and have them on the opposite sides of the house to help with circulation. I didn't even know you could do that.
Right. I mean, especially here, this is 5,000 square feet on one level. And so making sure that you got hot water in every room on demand, is very, 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 very key. So
Right. Awesome. All right. So where do projects normally go wrong? And I'm not talking about like in the construction standpoint, but outside of that, in the planning process, where do you see things typically go wrong?
So projects typically go wrong when you start with budgeting, because oftentimes people are not thinking the process through. So when you start putting together your budgets, you're just grabbing numbers anywhere out of the air, or you're working with a contractor and they give you a budget, but understanding you don't get to that budget for 6 to 8 months down the line, right? That particular line item. So one of the things that we do is we really use benchmarks. So we use benchmarks that allow us to pull on old projects that are similar in makeup. So therefore, we can make sure that we are working with a budget that is closely aligned to what we're actually building, and then have a degree of variance from there. But it always goes wrong with the numbers.
So what if I don't have any benchmarks? If I just got into building, how do I go about starting with a solid budget?
So when you start your budget, when you start it from scratch, what I would do is go ahead and get multiple bids for each line item. And what those bids will allow you to do is you don't want the cheapest and you don't want the most expensive. You want something that's going to be comfortable, that's going to allow you to also have some wiggle room, because in real estate, what can happen will happen. And so making sure that you can account for those items along the way. Because you got to understand, market conditions really dictate where those numbers fall. Like right now, you have the war that's going on, and oil and gas prices are up, but it also affects other commodities. So you got to be careful and mindful of your budgets to allow you to have some degree of variance for up or down based on that line item.
Right. So this is the perfect segue into my next question around the market and the real estate market, and your way. How does Patrick Henderson evaluate a deal?
Sure. So the way I evaluate the deal is all about the numbers. If the numbers don't make sense, then we don't do the deal. It has to be that cut and dry. I use a 65% ARV number as my litmus test as I choose a deal. And so just for high level numbers sake, if I'm doing a deal that's valued at $1 million, the most that I can spend on that deal is $650,000, right? And so that 35% margin is there to handle the gotchas. Also, the monthly payments, the closing costs, the realtor's fees, all those different things that people typically leave out when they start analyzing a deal. So
Right.
I try to make sure that there's a margin left for error, because what can happen will happen.
Yeah. And so you kind of highlighted something, things that people typically leave out. So what are the most common things that you see young investors, new investors typically leave out that they should kind of be aware of?
So when you start working on your deals and you start trying to figure out your budgets, people don't take into account closing costs. People don't even take into account, the points that you're paying to a lender once it's all said and done. Because again, you might as well just light those things up in fire, right? Because
Right.
I mean, those things are going to the lender or
Right.
brokers, an
Right.
extra point for this broker or what have you. Those are things that you don't take into account when analyzing the final numbers for your whole deal, as well as how much money you need to bring to the table.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure those things are taken into account when you're analyzing.
Now, are those things that can be negotiated, or do you just have to take it for face value?
I mean, in some cases it's negotiated depending upon who you're dealing with.
Right.
But some people have things that is their standard, and you got to be willing to either take it or leave it. That's another reason why I deal with that 65% ARV, 65% after repair value. If the house is worth $1 million, once it's all fixed up, I spend no more than $650,000 on the construction and purchase of that property.
Combined, y'all.
Combined.
So that's the biggest
correct.
thing. So not just $650 on the
That's right.
construction, is also the acquisition of that land.
That is absolutely correct.
That is super important for people to know.
That's right.
So you've been doing this for a very long time. We all know, let me speak for myself. From experience,
Right.
things happen. Learning lessons is what we like to call them.
Right.
What are some learning lessons that you made early that cost you money that it kind of really just changed the way you do your construction builds from that?
I mean, there's so many, because as you are getting into this building industry, you should be building as you climb, right? So
Right.
every build should be getting better, from how you handle decks, where you have water intrusion, where we used to do tile decking, tile roofing, and if you don't grout that appropriately, or if you don't make sure you have the proper concessions, that grout can deteriorate,
Right.
and water is going to find a way. So, looking at those types of things that you just get better over time.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, looking at it as a lesson and not necessarily a loss. Even if you don't make money, there's lessons in every aspect of everything that you do. It's how you take that and push it forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, you are a great educator, teacher. How does that kind of resonate with your end buyer? Do you also take time to educate them about what you put in the house? Like,
I think that's a must. And the reason why is because a lot of times people, even at this price point, you find that there are first-time home
wait, hold
buyers.
on. What's this price
So
point?
the $1 million price point.
Okay. We got to, because everybody don't know what the price point is. We
Right.
got to be clear.
So we even find sometimes first-time home buyers even in this price point.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people don't know what it takes in order to take care of your house.
Right.
So that is another reason why we try to now use the right materials that will allow them and to aid them in that process.
Right.
For instance, a lot of times, or back in the day, it used to be very keen in order to use Ipe wood or cedar siding or what have you. And we try not to utilize that anymore because, again, in Georgia, it gets hot, it gets cold. Natural wood expands, it contracts, and it starts to patina or change colors over time. So we like to use composite materials. Those composite materials will allow you to look the same way day one of installation to 10 years down the line, right? And so we try to educate the buyers and the owners of these houses to make sure that they know how to do the upkeep on their materials, or they know that, hey, listen, it's going to cost a little bit more for this material, but this is why it's important.
Right.
Right. And so education goes a long way, not only from a colleague perspective, but also from a homeowner perspective as well, is how to maintain the investment that they've gotten into.
Absolutely. So for someone, because you also have a cohort that you teach and people learn from, I've interacted with a few of them. I can kind of say I'm a low key in it myself, but for someone who wants to go from homeowner or investor to actually building, what's the first real step they should take? Not the Instagram version, the real version. Like,
So
what's the real step?
First and foremost, I try to tell people, get with somebody who is doing what you want to do.
Correct.
Right? Because oftentimes people need to be in the presence of what craft that they're trying to perfect. Right?
Correct.
And so get with somebody that you can lock arms with that can help you go along the way. But number two, you got to master your craft.
Right.
Right? My thing is get into the books, get into your trade, go online, understand who's doing what, understand pricing, understand materials, understand different ways of doing things that'll allow you to infuse those things on your particular build.
Right. Yeah. That's just start, y'all.
Get
Really
started.
just start too.
Take the first step.
That's the biggest thing, is getting started with the right people.
That's right.
All right. So this is my last question
Okay.
for you. What separates someone who builds one home from someone who builds a real business?
I like that question.
Yeah.
I like that question. So, anybody can build one home,
Right.
right? But to repeat and replicate this thing over and over again, you've got to have the systems in place. The systems will allow you to duplicate and understand the areas that you didn't do right so far on the first time,
Right.
and that you can have areas of improvement as you go on. And you take those things, put them in your repository, and learn from them and build upon them every single process.
Right.
But those systems are so key in order to help you progress to the next step.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's next? What can we see from Patrick Henderson?
Man, we trying to continue to buy the block.
I know that's right. There you
know,
go.
I mean, here's our mantra, right? We have to be able to go ahead and control the narrative. We are stronger together than we are apart. So it's all about teaching the next set of builders that are coming to this industry, because the more that we know, especially from a cultural perspective, traditionally not a lot of us are in ownership positions. So the more that we can teach, and not just teach by success, but teach by the failures and the things that you go through along the way, because that allows you to build building blocks along the way.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I mean, we got a lot of stuff coming, man.
I love it. And I'm ready. I'm tuned in. I'm excited to see it. And again, this is like us being in these lawn chairs is an homage to
My lawn chair learning circle.
Talk about it. Talk about the lawn chair learning
the
circle.
goal of lawn chair learning circle, when I got started in real estate, I didn't know much about real estate. It's self-taught, right? So what I used to do is I hired a GC, hired a project team, and I brought my lawn chair. We dropped it on site, and I just watched. I asked questions. I wanted to know what they were doing from a framing. Why did they do it this way? Why did they do it that way? And I just learned progressively along the way. And so that lawn chair learning circle is basically taking your lawn chair, and you're in class. Class is in session, right? And it's a matter of being present. I try to tell people, you could be around it, but sometimes it just takes, bring your lawn chair and just sit here and just watch.
Right.
Get your food, get your drink, whatever the case may be, and just watch what they're doing, because it's going to take you a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Pat. So we're trying to build this tradition here on the show where we have our guests leave a question for the next guest. So what question do you want to ask our future guest?
So who's your next guest?
It's someone in the construction industry.
All right,
so it's a wide angle.
Absolutely. So I guess one of the things you can ask them is, if you had a chance to tell your younger self when you got started in the business, something that will help redefine their business 10, 15, 20 years later, what would that be?
Okay. Good question.
Years.
Thank you.